There's never an instance in your entire life where the grip of those carnal things becomes so much that you gravitate towards it without any opportunity to make that choice. You always have the choice to choose good. You always have the choice to promote the heavenly crossroad. Hey everybody, Zach here. Thank you all for joining. So I made this video last week about worldly crossroads and heavenly crossroads and the difference between carnal choices and choices of virtue. And I did it live stream, and in the middle of it my camera just totally gave out. The internet connection is bad down in this beautiful rural southern Missouri spot that I'm in, and I lost the video. So the first 7 minutes are on the page. You're welcome to go back and watch that, but I'm going to just redo the whole thing here and try to make it clear and straightforward. So let's dive right in, shall we? So in our life, we have choices to make all the time. Some of those choices are small and some of those choices are big, but the impact of every choice we make is a lot more significant than what we understand. The choices pertain not only to ourselves and where we're navigating ourselves through life, like going left or going right, going towards good things or bad things, but it also really affects the people around us in ways that are sometimes more subtle than we perceive at first, and that's a big part of what we're going to unpack today. We represent what our heart treasures, and we gravitate more towards it. And we're going to read Matthew chapter 6 when Jesus talks about this concept. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys, and where thieves do not break in or steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. The eye is the lamp of the body. So then if your eye is clear, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light that is in you is darkness, how great is the darkness? Here Jesus is very much telling us that there are crossroads of carnal and heavenly implication, and that where we choose to walk, our heart will treasure that territory, and we will end up emanating that light to other people. As a default, our desires bring us towards carnal fulfillment, and we begin to treasure carnal offerings and naturally represent those in our lifestyle and our expressional nuances and the dynamics of our relationships. So we all have different desires, and we all have certain carnal things that are fulfilling. And by default, everybody sort of gravitates towards the carnal things that are fulfilling to the ego and to the flesh, right? And as we do that, we naturally express those things, not only through our lifestyle. Like my lifestyle, when you look at it, there's like a shape to it, right? So if I'm always choosing carnal things, when you look at me, you can see the shape of it. I represent those things at a certain point. But also, if depending on what choices I make and what crossroads I take, it's going to affect the way that I choose to express myself. All these nuances of how we communicate, I'm driving by, are always linked in with what's going on in our heart. You know, because we don't choose every single little subtlety of what we convey to people. What we convey comes off partially through automation, and that automation is a byproduct of what we're doing in our neurons and in our heart and doing with our choices. Treasuring heavenly virtue provides less immediate fulfillment than treasuring carnal fulfillment. And so the flesh generally requires aspiration in order to develop an attachment to heavenly crossroads and heavenly choices. Takes a little bit of work to get there, because it's easier. The path of least resistance for the flesh is to just crave carnal stuff and just keep going back to it. Since we are in a world dominated by carnal obsession, treasuring heavenly things also comes with resistance from the world due to the conflict which arises when we represent those heavenly things. So the more we start striving for virtuous things and heavenly things, the more that people around us are either going to get triggered or call us silly or idealistic and all these different things. Like, it's a lot of different people of different religions and practices I've heard kind of reflect this idea that as you start walking towards truth and meaning in your life, you get a lot of resistance. You know, sometimes it's family and friends, sometimes it's just random people out in the world. But in my experience, the more that I cling to virtue and meaning and purpose, the more that I definitely get a lot of resistance. And when I try to make sense of that, this is kind of where I land at, is that everybody naturally gravitates towards carnal things, and we like to see other people doing carnal things, so then we feel justified in perpetuating our own actions in that category. Whereas when somebody starts representing heavenly, virtuous things, it is naturally a challenge. Even if they're super nice, just doing their monk thing over there and not even talking to anybody about it, it sort of triggers us all on an existential level. And me too. Even though I'm trying to live virtuously, I'm still not above feeling almost sensitive when I see somebody really striving for something virtuous. Our heart's a complicated thing. So these representations and nuances of expression occur in small and large forms in our life. Small forms of how our heart treasures are represented in our expressions. The small forms of those are like day-to-day expressions and surface level archetypes, like the things I'm saying while we're talking, and just the very basic obvious things that you can see that I stand for. Surface level archetypes which pertain to your being, and also what you wind up representing in consistent ways over months and years. So over time, not just in my day-to-day expressions, but over years, you can look at me and sort of take a quick snapshot and see these small forms of archetypal expression that are all rooted in the choices I've made and the crossroads that I'm choosing, the way I choose to live and be. Large forms are both higher order archetypes of significance, like very meaningful archetypes that might come into view over knowing somebody over years, like realizing that they're actually a really good person or a really like manipulative person, or whatever. Some of these high level archetypes are not something we just catch in that first snapshot, but it's something that over time we can digest and our mind can discern over time. And also, large forms are specific, profound expressions which occur at specific, significant moments. And that's one of the main things I'm going to zoom in on here, is that every day we have crossroads. We have little ones, sometimes medium ones, sometimes really big ones. But sometimes in life, like much less often, we encounter very, very big crossroads. Very big, significant crossroads. And when we're just running in our ego, running on our programs, sometimes we don't notice how profound and important some of these crossroads are. And that's what I would like to encourage you all through this video, is to hopefully slow down and think about all the crossroads that you're facing in your day-to-day life, and think about how to approach them mindfully in a way that's going to lead towards prosperity and goodness for not just you, but for the people around you, so you can bless your family and friends. We face crossroads of decisions each day, and our choices decide how our treasure develops. So every day as you're making choices, you're choosing what you treasure. Like the Jesus quote we looked at earlier. You're choosing where your heart is at, because your heart goes to whatever you treasure. So as you make choices, your treasure will develop, and there are small crossroads each day, which will accumulate over time. These small crossroads are like a little bit of treasure, like a little coin over here, a little coin over there. But over time, enough of those coins will add up, and they will actually amount to large heart treasures over time, right? So even the small ones add up to something, is my point. But the large crossroads, the really big decisions that we have to make, large crossroads provoke big decisions and amass a larger amount of treasure very quickly. So we could be, as an example, we could be putting coins in the pot of these good decisions, like heavenly decisions in our day-to-day life, but then we get up to something that's really significant, like a big crossroad. And if we choose something really disastrous at that big crossroad, the overall weight and volume of what that represents in our heart and what it represents to other people who are looking at us could be tremendously more potent than what this pile of other treasure was, They're both worth a lot. And when you zoom out over decades of a person's life, you'll see that all those million small things actually weigh a whole lot, as well as those 10 big things, those weigh a whole lot too. But it's like, it's all pretty important, is kind of the point I'm trying to drive here. Likewise, our representation volume parallels these crossroads. That's kind of what I was just getting at. The volume with which we express the archetypes that are in our heart varies based on how big the decisions are. If we make a really big decision where we wind up like murdering someone or just doing something completely disastrously horrible in the human experience, the volume of that is going to be so much more significant than all the other things that we've done. And we just have to accept that that's kind of the nature of things. You know, there's no way really around that. Big carnal opportunities are big carnal opportunities are the same as big heavenly opportunities if we invest appropriately. So what I mean by that is when you get to these big crossroads, the ones where our carnal self feels very excited to go grab that treasure and to go seize it and make it our own, those are really some of the biggest opportunities that we have to invest into something heavenly and powerful. And on this note, before I go over the rest of the notes, I wanted to kind of make it more personal, you know, and bring up some of my own real life experience. So for me, I have had a handful of times in my life where I was given a crossroad, where I had a carnal opportunity that was enticing to my ego. You know, for me, it was like a decade ago, my early 20s, I remember having lustful opportunities come up. Lustful opportunities that ultimately my ego did want to pursue, right? Like my little self wanted that fleeting temporary bliss or whatever, you know? So it's not that I was above the desires, but there's been a few times in my life where God presented me these crossroads where I very clearly saw that I could acquire the lustful thing. But I was graced in those moments with also seeing the other side of the crossroad. And that's really where this whole video is kind of coming from, is from my own experience and the importance of this in my own heart. That some of the times where I really chose to walk away from the carnal fulfillment are some of the points in my life where I really felt purpose come into view and meaning come into view. And I started to understand the ripples of what we put off into the world. Because it's not just that by me choosing the heavenly thing there, it's not just the person that I could have been lustful with that's impacted by it, but it's the story that ripples off of it. It's all the archetypes of what it is what it represents. And when I make a video like this, those archetypes is like a megaphone, just screaming them out, making them even louder, right? So the same chance that I have to fulfill something on that carnal level, I could, for me, in my own choices, I've had instances where I turned down the sexual opportunity that I kind of wanted because I felt like it wasn't honoring that person and it wasn't honoring my purpose. It wasn't honoring anything all the way. And my heart, you know, at the time just jumped out and was like, don't do it, you know, even though I wanted it. And the times that I chose the heavenly thing, I'm not saying I've done it every time. By all means, I am a flawed and sinful human, just like all of you guys, I'm sure. But the times that I was graced with the devotion to actually choose the good thing, I have seen huge ripples come off of that. And in my own mind, in my own heart, but also with the other person, that think of how many times people jump on the carnal opportunity to do the thing, whether it's like making money in an illegitimate way, whether it's being sexual with somebody in an illegitimate way, anything that we know is like not really not the high road, you know. There's so many times that we default to that lower carnal road. And the times that we really choose not to, and the virtue shines, it is apparent to the other person. They see and they are shown their worth and their honor in a way that is very big and powerful. So we aren't conscious of all these crossroads and their ramifications at all times, but oftentimes we are on some level. And it's integral in my experience, or in my opinion, to challenge ourselves to acknowledge these opportunities so that we can live a meaningful life, both in our own measure as well as in the impact that we have on other people that we represent things to, people that we come into contact with. This is how we make the world a better place, is by choosing crossroads that represent things that we know are virtuous and they're bigger than just our desires. Through doing this over time, we paint the picture of selflessness. We add another layer of selflessness onto the canvas of reality so that people can start seeing it. It's not that we're manifesting it and like forcing it on reality. It's me taking accountability and sovereignty over the little bubble that I have and actually choosing to paint it with something heavenly so that I can produce as much good ripples in the world as I can. And me, your friend Zach, I try to do this all the time, and I'm not perfect at it. I'm sure I choose selfish things all the time, but I really do try to keep myself thinking about these crossroads. And I hope that that's what this video can do for you guys. It's not that you're going to all of a sudden be transformed into a perfect saint, but I do hope you take a sober assessment of how real these crossroads are and how some of them are looking at you right now. Some of them, as soon as you get off this video, you're going to see these crossroads. And if enough people watch this video, I'm willing to bet that some of you will face a crossroad that is like super big and significant after this. And I pray that these ideas and this reflection promotes good decision making for you, because I really want you guys to be blessed, and I want you to be happy, and I want you to choose decisions that are not just generically heavenly in a way that makes me feel religious or something silly like that, but things that are truly virtuous that will promote prosperity and well-being for you and for the people around you that you love and care about. So we're going to read about Romans 8. For those who are according to the flesh set their minds on the things of the flesh, but those who are according to the Spirit, the things of the Spirit. For the mind set on the flesh is death, but the mind set on the Spirit is life and peace. So then, brethren, we are under obligation, not to the flesh, to live according to the flesh. For if you are living according to the flesh, you must die. But if by the Spirit you are putting to death the deeds of the body, you will live. For all who are being led by the Spirit of God, these are the sons of God. Paul is directly telling us about these crossroads of life and death, and he's connecting it between the flesh and between the calling of spirit towards heaven. So when you get to a meaningful crossroad, you have to choose to pick one road and to deny the other road. Likewise, we choose to sacrifice heavenly opportunity to fulfill carnal opportunity, or we choose to sacrifice carnal fulfillment to fulfill heavenly opportunity. Every day, you're given these chances, and the chances you have are not mundane, they're not benign, they're not meaningless. They're really, really significant. And only you can produce the exact ripples that you're able to produce. The people that you can influence, the people that you can shine a light to, some of them, you're the only one for the job, right? Some of these people have other people shine in too. But there's some people in your life that God has lined it up that you're the one to do the thing. You're the one to show them God, to show them love, to show them virtue, to show them meaning. And it's entirely up to you, right? And I'm humbled by knowing that I have failed on that so many times. And I really do pray that I have the strength to do better in these choices. Because I don't want my life to be about me. I don't want the choices to be about me, and just me getting whatever I want. I want the choices I make to be truly prosperous for the greater good. On a human level, that's what the quest is, to serve the Most High and to achieve one's highest calling. What is the maximum good that I could do? What is the gold standard of what I could do? For me, that's where the Christian principles come into play, is that as best as I can measure out of reality, the gold standard of selfless loving conduct is embodied in Yeshua and in the story of Yeshua and in the reality of who he was walking around in Israel 2,000 years ago. So to me, that there's a reason why Jesus is who he is and why he has rippled into reality in the way he has and become the most famous person in history. It's not random. It's because he chose the heavenly crossroads in a way that the volume got louder and louder and louder and louder and cranked up so loud that it pretty much fractured modern society in two and created a very visible rift between good and evil. Like Jesus came to amplify that more and more, or more than it has ever been, and to create a new precedent of understanding of good and evil. And you, regardless of if you're Christian or not, or a seeker, or a New Age, or a whatever you are, or a non-religious atheist person, you also are given the opportunity to do the same thing on some capacity. Probably not in the same volume as Christ, because you've probably already goofed up and chosen a bunch of unheavenly stuff along the way, right? I know I have. I don't expect to get to that gold standard of having chosen good all the way down the road. However, the impact we have and the ripples we produce, it's the same formula as what Christ had. And it's the same, the formula leads to profound decision making at any time that we implement it. So it's up to us if we want to make the world something godly and loving, or if we want to vote with our time and vote with our decisions for the atrocities and corruptions of our system to just continue grinding us all to a pulp and destroying us. And I don't mean to be too intense, but I really do feel that that's what we're looking at, guys. It's like in the Old Testament, it talks about, I've set before you life and death. Choose life, like God wants us to choose life. But we have a whole polarity in front of us, a spectrum of potential. You have like very, very good choices. You have some stuff in the middle that's kind of hard to discern. Then you have some like very, very bad choices. And all of us, no matter what your previous experiences are, no matter what volume of heaven or volume of carnal stuff you have, you're always positioned at a point where you have like an amazing opportunity to choose either one of them. You know, it's the same thing as like, let's say the Jesus story, right? He climbs up, he turns the volume up on heaven more and more and more and more and more. But does that mean that like when Jesus was about to go to the cross or something, that he was just on autopilot and it's just like, oh yeah, he did so much heavenly stuff at that point. Yeah, he was just guaranteed to. No. I think he was always at that crossroad, the same crossroad we're at, you know, like up until the last second, Christ faced that same reality that you face as a man or a woman on this earth, which is to have every opportunity to choose bad stuff or good stuff in any moment, regardless of your story. So like the bright side of this is, right? Okay, so flip the script over, is that no matter how crappy you've lived, no matter how much you've turned the volume up on carnal stuff, because a lot of you have probably turned it up a whole lot, and I know I've turned it up way more than I should have, and I'm truly repentant of that, and I'm foolish for having turned it up as loud as I have, you know. What was I thinking? The good news is, though, is that no matter how much you've turned up the volume of the evil inclinations and the excitement for carnal nonsense, you still have every single available opportunity to start cultivating heavenly things and to choose those heavenly things. And there is never an instance in your entire life where the grip of those carnal things becomes so much that you gravitate towards it without any opportunity to make that choice. You always have the choice to choose good. You always have the choice to promote the heavenly crossroad and to walk towards that heavenly crossroad and to paint pictures with your life about that heavenly crossroad, to encourage the people around you to do that so that we can all start helping each other and quit destroying each other and heal the world, heal humanity, right? I'm sure that's the common ground for all of my mystical friends on here, Christian, non-Christian, atheistic, philosophical, health conscious people, right? Swirl all that together. There's a middle point here where we're all seeking peace and goodness and love. If you hate peace, love, and goodness, I have a feeling you're not on the Zach of Eternity channel, because like every different portion of my content centers around that, you know. So I'm sure you guys can relate on wanting goodness and peace and love. So on that note, I'm gonna end in a prayer. Thank you all for watching. And thank you, Heavenly Father. Thank you for bringing me here today and giving me the breath and the inspiration to sit here and to feel the peace to be able to speak about these things. I pray that these words ripple off into all the perfect ears at all the perfect time to be able to bless people. And I pray, Father, that you keep giving me the guidance and keep refining my mind and my heart so that I can have more strength to do good in this world. And if it's in your will, that I have less anxiety so that I can jump on camera more often and speak good things and become a part of this world conversation to hopefully inject more heavenly goodness into the world conversation. Thank you for the blessings, Father. Please show up in my life, show up in these people's lives, show up in everybody's life, and make your presence known. Make your holy presence known so that we can feel inspired to choose those good crossroads. And whenever we're looking at the bad crossroad, Father, please show up and help to encourage us. Send us that little figurative angel on the shoulder that'll make us think maybe there's another direction before we just fall back into the pit. I know that with your guidance, we can all choose good, and I really do believe that goodness is what you have in store for this earth. In Yeshua's holy name. Amen. Thank you all for watching. Goodbye.